After having probably the worst preseason and finishing last in the MLS last season, Inter Miami won a game. Today, at the opening night of the MLS season for 2024, they got a 2-0 victory over Real Salt Lake. I'm genuinely surprised. I'm really happy for Inter Miami. This is probably the best that they've played all year. Let's just go over the game, talk about some individual performances, and what we could potentially look forward to in the future. First of all, let's start with the lineup. This is going to be the lineup card. I personally made this, and so this was the starting 11 for Inter Miami. We have Calendar in goal. We have Jordi Alba on the left with Yedlin on the right. Kritsov and Aviles as the two center backs. In the midfield, we have Gomez on the left, Busquets in the holding midfield position with Julian Gressel as the right center mid. We have Robert Taylor on the left wing. We have Luis Suarez as the number 9 up top. And, of course, LIONEL Messi playing on that right-hand side. On the bench, we had Dos Santos, Sailor, Allen, Boatwright, Mota, Ruiz, Sunderland, Campana, and Borgelin. As you can tell, just based on the subs alone, we had a lot of players come from the second team. But Inter Miami struck first in the 39th minute of the first half with Robert Taylor scoring a goal assisted by Lionel Messi himself. Honestly, the goal was well put together and the shot was somewhat decent, but it was just a mistake by the goalkeeper at the end of the day. He couldn't really get a hand to it, and it just kind of went underneath him and into the back of the net, slowly rolling over that line. You can't take anything away from Robert Taylor or, of course, Lionel Messi putting that play together. Robert Taylor is probably one of the best players that we have at the club, if not the best, outside of the Fantastic Four, meaning Messi, Suarez, Alba, and Busquets. But yeah, I personally think that Robert Taylor is probably the best player that we have at the club. So it was a solid performance from him. And in general, it was a solid performance from Inter Miami for at least those first 45 minutes. We played the ball well. We were moving it around. We were making some plays. Defensively, I thought we were pretty solid too. We didn't really allow Real Salt Lake to create too many chances. And that's kind of the Inter Miami that we want to see throughout the majority of the season. That first half performance, I believe, is a pretty solid start. And if we can improve from there, I think it's only going to be positives this season. Moving to the second half, I thought we played kind of worse in the second half than in the first half. We did let off the gas a bit, in my opinion, and we pretty much gave Real Salt Lake the opportunities really that they needed to pretty much come back. And I think it was fortunate enough on our end. We didn't concede, but I definitely think we should have. Real Salt Lake ended up having 13 total shots just in that second half alone compared to our 6. In the first half, we had 9 shots compared to their 4. We had 5 of those on target, so we were really on top of them in that first half. Second half definitely gave them more possession, obviously a lot more shots and a lot more opportunities to score. And like I said, we were pretty lucky that we didn't concede at least one, and we did manage to keep the clean sheet. But I think regardless of the second half performance, there are a lot of positives to take out of this match. There's a lot of player performances individually that I'll go over in a second that I think were pretty good and are promising for what the rest of the season could look like. Real Salt Lake, in my opinion, are not really one of the best clubs in the league this season. But regardless, let's talk about some of the player performances and what we should be looking forward to later down the line. I think probably the best player in that defensive 4 is for sure Kristov. He was pretty on top of it last night. I thought defensively he was pretty solid. He made a bunch of great passes that connected really well. He made a couple of good tackles. I think it's safe to say that he was at least one of the best defenders in the game and probably one of the best players that played last night. Aviles, I thought he did well. Did make a couple of mistakes here and there, but so far I think it's promising to see the young Argentinian to play the way he did. I think there's just a lot of improvement to make, and I think now he's going to be starting more games, so I think it's only just going to improve from here. Yedlin's performance was pretty solid. Nothing really too much that stood out. I think it was he just did his job, and he did it pretty well. He got up and down the field pretty well, and yeah, really nothing more to say about that. And Jordi Alba, I think at the end of the day, was just kind of doing Jordi Alba type things, really. I mean, like, he got up and down the field a lot. You know, Jordi Alba, he loves getting up that left flank, and I feel like the connection between him and Robert Taylor has always been pretty solid. Yeah, I think them linking together worked pretty nicely and pretty fluidly, and obviously him connecting with Messi and Suarez and Busquets. It's just something that is typical of him to do. So solid performance from Alba, solid performance from the defense. Let's move to the midfield. Let's start with Gressel, and we're talking about the starting 11, by the way. I'll talk about the subs that came on at the end. In the midfield, let's start with Julian Gressel. Honestly, I don't want to say impressed, because I feel like impressed is a little too much, but I thought he looked better last night than how I thought he was going to play. By first impression, especially during preseason, he didn't really impress me at all. I honestly thought he was just going to be another flop, but I think at the end of the day, he was pretty solid. As Diego Gomez kind of pushed up, I think Julian and Sergio in that midfield worked pretty well together. So I was pretty surprised compared to how he played during preseason, but hopefully this is something that we can expect from Gressel. Obviously, Tata Martino has a good understanding of him as he's coached him before, so I think there are only ups from here for Julian. Sergio Busquets looked okay. Like, he looked pretty... Honestly, I don't know what to expect from Busquets because I don't really know if I should expect the absolute best out of him or just pretty average performances because of his age. He didn't look anything crazy tonight. He did make some mistakes. He did look pretty sluggish, but honestly, what can you expect from a guy like him at his age, pretty much trying to hold that midfield? But I think at the end of the day, he was the anchor of that midfield and he kind of held everything together. I was never a fan of Gomez. I thought Diego Gomez was also just a flop, especially against Newell's. I thought that Gomez was just not good. I didn't think he performed well in that game at all. Tonight, he proved me pretty differently. I thought he was pretty solid tonight, and obviously he got the goal at the end, around the 83rd minute, I want to say. But I think it's important to be hard on somebody like Gomez, and this is going to be very important for the rest of the season that I'll talk about later. But I think it's important for us as fans to be pretty hard on players like Diego Gomez because he is so young and because he has the potential and the talent to perform pretty well. We need to be hard on him to get those performances out of him. I think what he did against Newell's and even in the preseason and even sometime last season, it was just unacceptable and it just wasn't good. So this season it has to change and he has to step up, especially during the summertime when Messi's not going to be here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Moving on to the attack, obviously we have Taylor, Suarez, and Messi. You can't really get upset at those front three. Suarez, I want to point out that he didn't look at all like the Luis Suarez that we all know and love, and obviously for many reasons that is due to injury, due to his age. It's just not Luis Suarez. If you've watched Luis Suarez in his prime at Barca, at Liverpool, even in Brazil, this is not the same Suarez. So don't watch an Inter Miami game and expect to see the same Luis Suarez that you've been watching your entire life. I was genuinely shocked that he did play pretty much the entire 90 minutes. I think he got subbed off in like the 88th minute, and I'm surprised that he played that long, honestly. I thought he was going to come off around the 60th minute, bring in Campana or maybe even Borklin, but he played throughout the whole 90 minutes. He did look pretty slow. I'm not going to lie to you. He looked slow. He looked sluggish. Honestly, he didn't really look too fit, but he did contribute to Miami's second goal. And he was putting in some plays together. Like it's not like he didn't do anything that in that entire game. He definitely was trying, but I think at the end of the day, we're gonna need somebody. If that's gonna be how Suarez plays this whole season, I think it's gonna be a problem. I think he's either not gonna start or just play limited minutes. Maybe come off at halftime, come off in the 50th, 60th minute. If Campana has a pretty good season this year, I think he's gonna start. Or they might move somebody else in that striker position. Maybe even move Messi at that as like a false nine, and maybe have Robert Taylor and maybe Karamashi on the right, or maybe Diego Gomez on the right. But I don't know. I feel like that's something that Tata Martino will look into as the season goes. But I talked about Robert Taylor already, one of the best players on the field and one of the best players in the club. He scored a goal, and Messi is just Messi. He performs well no matter what. He did this ridiculous move over a player that was already down, like injured, and I thought that was pretty funny. So he almost scored a free kick, and it was kind of weird how Russell Lake and Inter Miami set up for that free kick, but regardless. But yeah, he involved himself in both goals. You could give him man of the match, but yeah, no, honestly, top performance for Messi. Can't complain at all, and I expect nothing less from him. So for the substitutes, they did come on pretty late. The first three substitutes came in the 77th minute. It was Noah Allen, David Ruiz, and Jean Mota. they all performed pretty solid. I highly rate both Noah Allen and David Ruiz. I thought tonight when they took off Avilés, I'm pretty sure it was for an injury. He did well to kind of mirror that like a solid performance that Avilés had. So I highly rate Noah Allen, and I think he's going to do pretty well this season if he gets a lot of minutes. I think he's a good rotation player as well. He could probably start even over Yedlin at some times. I definitely think he's a good rotation player. Ruiz, I definitely think he is probably the biggest prospect we have at the club. I personally believe that he is probably one of, if not the best youngest player that we have. I think it's between him and Cremashi. We still have to wait and see how they perform during the season, but I think that it's between him and Cremashi are the two best prospects that we have at the club. But I think Ruiz is just a little bit better. He got substituted in for Sergio Busquets, and I thought he did well to kind of fill that role. He strung up a couple passes together. He always looks good on the ball, and obviously at the end of the day, he just helped Miami get that 2-0 wins. And Jean Mota is probably, I think he's like the only other senior midfielder that we have, because it's Sergio Busquets, Mota, we sold Gregory, and that's it. I'm pretty sure. Literally, our midfield is like we have Mota and Busquets. Now we have Gressel, but Gregory's out. Ulloa is out. We have Ruiz, we have Cremashi, we have Santiago Morales, another Argentinian, we have Gomez, we have that Italian kid, Bright, I believe his name is, and then Carmichael. They're all young. They're all like in their early 20s or in their teenage years. So a very young midfield. So yeah, great performance from Inter Miami last night. Now the big question is, I know it's only game one, but there are a lot of talks about, should Inter Miami be winning the league? Should they be winning MLS Cup? Should they be winning Supporter Shield, which really nobody cares about? But should they be winning any sort of silverware this season? And that's what I want to talk about right now. In my opinion, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. It's not going to be as easy as people think it might be, even though they do have the Fantastic Four, Messi, Suarez, Alba, and Busquets. At the end of the day, there's going to be that window in the summer where Messi's not going to be there. Why? Because of Copa America. The MLS season is still going to be going. It's going to be going, and Messi's not going to be part of that team. I think that's just going to be a huge factor. I think going a month without Messi during that summer is going to be pretty difficult. They also have CONCACAF Champions League that they have to compete in, which they have that bye week, and I believe that that's what Messi really cares about more than anything, is winning the CONCACAF Champions League. But yeah, in my opinion, if they can solidify a guaranteed spot in the playoffs, they probably have a chance of winning it. Because as we saw last season, when it comes to playing in the Leagues Cup, they did pretty well. And I'm saying that because it was just a playoff format, it was just a tournament format, and that's what pretty much the playoffs are. It's a tournament format. If they could secure at least maybe 5th place, because that's the guaranteed spot, because 6th and 7th place play a wild card game. They play a best series of 3. If they do make it to that wild card game, I think they're not going to make it. But if they can somehow pass that wild card and place at least 5th or 4th, I think they have a huge chance of winning the MLS Cup. But let me know what you think. Do you think Messi not being available during that summer will highly impact Inter Miami's performances for at least that month and could potentially cost them the MLS Cup or any sort of silverware this season? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Our next game is going to be a difficult game. We have the LA Galaxy at LA. So we have to travel all the way to California in the West Coast next Sunday, the 25th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's probably going to be a difficult game. Obviously, the LA Galaxy have an amazing history, but last season they did just as bad as Inter Miami. They finished second to last place in the Western Conference, winning 8 out of 34 games. So they're probably not going to perform as bad last season as they are this season. So we should expect an amazing game on Sunday. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw, and that's my prediction for this Sunday. Do you think Miami will be able to pull away with the win at the West Coast this Sunday? Do you think Messi will contribute to any goals? Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to be talking about Inter Miami for the rest of the 2024 season, so stay tuned and be looking forward to that if that's something that you are interested in. Make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you are new to the channel. Thank you so much to everybody who has done that so far, and I'll see you guys in the next video.